sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Attanam bhikkhave rakkissami satipattanam bhave tabbanti ti. Dear Dhamma friends, today is the second day in the retreat. Each day in this time at around 1:30 afternoon, we allocated time for a Dhamma talk, and yesterday we started the first one, and they are introduced a particular discourse delivered by the Buddha, known as Sedaka Sutta, that you may find in the Samyutta Nikaya, the concise discourses, in Satipatthana Samyutta. As I mentioned yesterday, the incident was there were two acrobats, the master and the apprentice or the disciple, were about to perform their acrobat, and the master balanced a bamboo pole upon his shoulder and asked the disciple, the apprentice, to climb up on top of the bamboo pole and balance himself on top of the master's shoulder. And there the master mentioned the disciple, once you go up there and balance yourself, you must try to protect me and I will protect you. This way we will perform our acrobats and earn our earnings and satisfy the people and get down and we make our livelihood. Then the disciple mentioned, "Oh dear master, this is not the way I think better. You better protect yourself, I'll protect myself. I think this is the better way for us to perform this acrobats." So this is the incident the Buddha citing, and he says, out of this master's and the disciples' viewpoint, the Buddha appreciates the disciple. Thereby one has to protect oneself, and then only one can protect others. And there the Buddha says, if someone accepts to appreciate the advice of the Buddha, so to say, one has to protect oneself, and that is the pragmatic and practical way in this world. And for that, the Buddha says, one has to practice mindfulness. We protect myself, bhikkhu, thus should the establishment of mindfulness. So taking the message from that incident, the Buddha given the flat recommendation for all the disciples to be mindful. And equally, yesterday I mentioned, when you are going through the canon, the teaching of the Buddha, there's yet another synonym you find for this mindfulness is the diligence. So one has to be diligent, mindful or vigilant in order to protect oneself. And as the discourse continues, that is the only way to protect others too. So whoever interested in protecting oneself or protecting others must take care about mindfulness, take care about the diligence. So within this framework, if we are to go a little further, expand it, the teaching further, one become vulnerable to these adversities or friction of the world in three ways, because due to one's own defilements. The grossmost part, the external the most gross defilements are called transgressional kind of defilements that we transgress through our physical and verbal deeds. Whenever we are transgressing or trespassing or violating these norms, we are either disturbing our future or disturbing other beings together with the environment. So therefore, in return, we are going to get disturbed in time to come and ultimately end up with disappointment. So therefore, unless otherwise you become mindful and diligent about your own defilements, the outermost one, the gross one, known as the transgressional kind, very difficult for you to live a happy life or get a contentment, especially with respect to this stress, the fearfulness, uncertainty. So if someone is fed up with this stress, the frustration, the uncertainty, one has to take care about one's own defilements, and instead of seeking the help of the infrastructure or communication or external security or centralized security, the Buddha's recommendation is very bold, very revolutionary. He says, take care about your own defilements. That is what the ethical code, the Buddhist ethical code is. That is to say, one has to take care about one's own physical and verbal misdeeds. As far as you are taking care about your physical and verbal misdeeds, you will not transgress physical misdeeds and verbal misdeeds. So therefore, in return, you will get some kind of a peace of mind or fearlessness or lack of stress. So that is what called the moral training or sila in the Pali word, sila sikha, moral training. So this is the starting point in anyone's, any practitioner's life, yogic life. That is called sila sikha. Yesterday we took time to explain a little bit further of the sila sikha, and then we open the way to go into the inner kind of defilement, that is called kind of a medium kind of defilement called obsessional kind. Once you taken up this gross kind, and once you become cultured, once you become disciplined, when you become moral responsible, you will be uplifted, you will be taken to a somewhat least kind of frictional path, and then you will be more and more concerned. You have to be more and more concerned. You of course will be exposed to this, so to say, the medium kind of defilements known as obsession. There are 5 in kinds in the common acceptance of the literature. The teaching of the Buddha, that is called hindrances. In the common name is called hindrances. Namely, in Bali, Kamachanda, Vyapada, Utthina-mitta, Uddhacca-kucca, Vicikicca. The sensual desire, the aversion. Third one is the sloth and torpor. Fourth one is restlessness and worry. Fifth one is the doubt. So these are the one always taken upper hand in our mental state. One thing become prominent. Once it become prominent, it controls, it colors our mind, and then it go beyond our control. If you are not mastering, if you are not aware of it, if you are not be prepared, they will not stop at that obsessional level, and it will go and transgress or trespass the civil laws and violating the other's peace of mind, and you may be disturbing your future also. So therefore, one not only control the physical and verbal misdeeds, one has to take care about this obsessional kind. And as I mentioned, whenever someone becomes cultured and trained towards the physical and verbal misdeed, they invariably exposed towards these 5 hindrances. Unfortunate thing is, whenever someone is becoming more and more aware of these hindrances, they will become unhappy and disappointed, discouraged, thinking that there's a kind of a force behind, and always malice leading us to danger, and therefore they hate these defilements, namely the hindrances, and therefore they fail to understand it. They fail to figure it out, map it out. But instead of the Buddha, he says, once you become fairly successful in this first controlling of physical and verbal deeds, to make it to the good deeds rather than the misdeeds, then you must have a boldness or preparedness to understand the medium layer of the defilements, namely these 5 hindrances, and there only the meditation come into being. Whether you are a lay or ordained, whether you are living in a forest or in a village or in a town, anyone who wish the well-being or loving kindness to oneself has to take care about this and study them and be prepared, and when and where it arises, understand its beginning, its middle and the end, and one has to take time so that they are not aggressional, and under such circumstances you have to take precautions so as to they will not overcome the mental state. That is what we call samatha bhavana, or this calmness, concentration meditation. So whenever the mind becomes concentrated, what is the assurance is that these nivaranas, or these hindrances, will be suppressed for a given period of time. For that there is a special technique, and that technique gives us special benefit. And just by moral conduct or moral responsibility or moral training, you won't get this kind of benefits. For that you have to do different training, different restrainment. That is what we call concentration training, or serenity, or calmness meditation. There whereby you have to go and abide in conducive conditions. That is the point where the Buddha recommends either you to go to a forest, or go under a tree, or go to a place which is absence of sensuous pleasure, or sensuality, or sexuality. That is why we are putting up places like this. And whenever you come up to a place like this, you feel you are acquainted with many things and people, but only the distinctive character is these people and things are arranged in such a way they are not to provoke sensuality or sexuality. So that is why this is called sunyagara, free of sexual or sensual titillations. So you have to understand why these places are important for the practice of concentration meditation. Because once the nivaranas taken upper hand, you can't start You cannot be a successful yogi or meditator once the Nivaranas is taken up. So therefore you have to find a time where the Nivaranas are not taken upper hand, and you give the conducive conditions like finding a place like this and associate noble or co-practitioners, those who also have the same taste, and you have to listen to good discourses. You have to discuss it to make the points clear, and then do the special kind of training. To cite an example, to give some kind of a practical hint, during the time of the Buddha, there was a well-known theoretical master. He is well recognized and he is conducting a number of classes to teach others, teach disciples about the monastic code, about the discourses and literature, languages and kind of thing. He was so busy as well as very popular. So many people attend to his classes. So whenever the class is free, he used to bring the disciples to the Buddha and introduce them. These are the new people came to my classes and training and learning and all the kind. Instead of facing him, the Buddha used to crack jokes, telling, you empty person, you useless fellow, came with your disciples. You empty person came and respect me. You empty person now about to go like. In front of all the disciples, the Buddha is giving kind of a hint. The big master was thinking again and again, I am going to the Buddha to pay respect, I am bringing so much of disciples, they are becoming more and more interested in the Buddhism and kind of, still the Buddha won't give any appreciation. In thinking, he thought, I am not practicing. I am just a theoretical master. That is why the Buddha is hinting me that I am an empty person. Buddha never recommend, understand him as a leader, Buddha understand him as a misleader. He got so moved, and one day he thought that if I am to get a formal farewell, never I will get. Because every people happy me to be a master, but the Buddha is thinking me, I am just empty. So he left the place without the prior notice. Early in the morning, he got his ball and the ropes, left the place and start walk 120 yojanas, that means about a few hundred miles. After going there, he came across a meditating place or forest hermitage. 30 monks got together and they are practicing. So he thought, this is the place, I have to go and practice. So he went with full respect to the abbot and pay respect and asked, dear sir, I would like to practice with you. Therefore, please teach me how to do this samatha meditation, or meditation as such. And because I am so moved in order to practice. But the master had the sense and found that the newcomer is full of conceit. He thinks he knows everything about the Buddhism, but he thought with that kind of conceit, his meditation will never be successful. So therefore, in order to humiliate, he played a trick. He told, I have been the master for a long time here, now I am very old, so therefore nowadays I am not giving instruction, why don't you go to the second person, second in charge. And then the newcomer thought, this may be the tradition, and so he happily and with respect to went to the second master. And second master observed scrutinized and said, why this the abbot, the first one is sending him to me. While questioning, he also came to know the newcomer is with full of conceit, thinking that he knows Buddhism because of his theoretical knowledge. Then he told, I am also now busy nowadays, why don't you go to the third in rank and ask the instructions? And the third also did the same. Ultimately he went up to the 29th person and he also let him down. Ultimately it happened him to go to the 30th person. That novice was just 7 years old, and the master went and asked the 70-year-old novice, "Dear Venerable, I came with so much of interest, and I'm sorry no one is there to give me instruction. You being a benevolent person, why don't you give me instructions?" Then that novice told, "You are just like my grandfather. How can you, will you listen to me? I doubt. I am such a young novice, so therefore I doubt whether my instruction will work." Then by that time the visitor was so humiliated, he told, "If you ask me to climb down to this muddy waterhole, I will climb down as a symbol to indicate that I am listening to you." There was close by a muddy waterhole. Then the novice told, in order to check, why don't you climb down into the muddy place? So this the novice, the visitor, he climbed down up to his half of his body length, and then the novice asked, "Oh, now get up and come." After coming and paying the due respect, then he told, "I will give you an example and answer me in an appropriate way. If there is an ant hill with six holes, a hunter is chasing behind the iguana, and that iguana is creeping into that ant hill in order to find refuge. But anyway, the hunter knows how to catch the fellow, and if the hunter is skillful, what must be the best skillful way to catch the iguana?" Then the master, the newcomer, he says, the usual traditional way is they have to block 5 holes, cover it, and smoke the anthill with the 6th hole. And when the anthill is full of smoke, the iguana has to come out. It has no many ways, only one thing available, so the hunter can do as he likes. Then the 7-year-old novice is telling, when you sit down for meditation, you are also like anthill. You have 6 holes. Eyes are 1, nose, ears, tongue, the body sensitivity and the mind. These are 6 holes. If all the 6 holes are open, you can't catch the mind. So therefore, you have to close your eyes. Go to a silent place, that hole also not working. Don't entertain any smells. Don't talk as well as don't eat. And don't make any movement of your body, so that 5 holes will be covered. And make the mind alert. And make the mind mindful, vigilant, and see or be aware of your sitting posture. These are the tactics to make your mind concentrated and come to the serenity and not to entertain varietal entertainment. Because in the sensuous world, in the samsara, we lost our way due to this varietal entertainment. Whenever we are going for this varietal entertainment, mind becomes naughty, unruly. So that is why out of 6 holes, you have to purposefully close and be alert on the body door. That is called Kayanupassana. Be mindful on the body, be contemplative on the body, on body. So that is what we do when we are taking the sitting meditation exercise. We sit cross-legged or we sit in a meditative chair and make our body symmetrical and comfortable, and close your eyes. Don't go chasing behind sounds, nor entertain the smell and taste, and then be aware of your sitting posture. As I mentioned yesterday, if the mind becomes introvert, then either you may fail the sitting posture or the natural process of breathing. If that is the case, now we have to you can be happy. Now mind is slowly become tamed, disciplined, and you be aware of something happen naturally, or in the sense a neutral object, in breath and out breath. This is the way you facilitate, you help promote the concentration, and the alertness to that particular moment is called mindfulness, or vigilance or diligence. As far as mind is mindful, vigilant and diligent, you are aware of your just being, sitting and being, sometimes the natural process of in-breath and out-breath. So this is the way you align the mind with mindfulness. The continuity of that situation is the most proximate factor for the concentration to happen. Instead, the mind may be imagining some visual objects and observing, or worrying about external sounds, or may be carried away by your bodily pains, or sleepiness, or doubting. All these are called hindrances. Whenever the mind is face to face with your body, or bodily sensation, sitting and being, or in-breath and out-breath, that is called, you are applying thoughts, or apply mental state is applied again and again to a neutral object. As and when it go to same object for long time, instead of parallel entertainment, you are giving the maximum conducive condition for the mindfulness to continue and concentration to set in. That is what we call intensive meditation, intensive method of establishment of mindfulness. So when we are doing it continuously, you have to learn a lot of ways and means in order to maintain this integrity, in order to maintain this mindfulness and the concentration. So therefore some masters, they suggest, if you find difficult to keep it intact, if you find difficult to maintain the integrity, not the very object that you are focusing upon. For example, if you are focusing upon your sitting posture, you just not sitting. If you are noting, or if you are taking as the in-breath and out-breath as your primary object, you note it as in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath, as and when it arises, in order to not the mind to run away. This is called vitaka in Pali language. That means you are applying thought. But as and when the mind is applied to the oncoming in-breath, noting as in-breath, and similarly oncoming out-breath, as and when it arises, if you can't discriminate the in-breath versus out-breath, the effectivity of applying thought is not really geared. So therefore, when more and more you practice, more and more become acquaintance, familiarize with the in-breath and out-breath, in order to taste the in-breath experience versus the out-breath experience, you are not just applying, you have to rub it. You have to get the touch of it. You have to get the experience of in-breath versus out-breath. So when my teacher, Vanaya, was giving the detailed instructions in order to increase the efficiency, he says, whenever the in-breath happens, you have to understand it is not out-breath. That means you see the intrinsic characteristic, permanent, the private characteristic, personal characteristic of in-breath, which is not common with out-breath. Whenever the out-breath happens, you must be so sharp to understand this is not in-breath. In other words, you must be sharp to see the characteristic which are attributable to out-breath, that means not common with the in-breath, And that sharpness is what we call vichara, the sustenance mental application. To facilitate, to give some example for this applying thought and the sustained thoughts, the commentator says, when you are gonging the bell, the hitting is like a applying thought and its vibration is like sustained thoughts. According to its metal, vibrations are different. We have a special metal for gongs. When you hit, the vibration indicates what metal. Exactly when the in-breath happens, you must have the taste of in-breath, which is not common to out-breath. Whenever the out-breath happens, your mind must be sharp to see this is not in-breath. So whenever you become skillful in meditation, not to carried away by thoughts, not to distracted by your bodily pains and external sounds, sleepiness and doubts, that means you are face to face with the in-breath and out-breath. By observing in-breath as completely different phenomena from the out-breath, out-breath is completely different phenomena from the in-breath, that we observe the natural characteristics of in-breath and out-breath. That is your private duty, your intrinsic duty while observing. Otherwise, the sharpness of the mind will not come. So therefore, just applying is not the matter. Each time you apply it to the one part of the breathing, that is in-breath, you must know this is the part now associated. When that is finished and when you come to the out-breath, that you must know. That is the way you sharpen your in-breath attention, or in the sense the mindfulness and the diligence. So whenever that happens, the intensity, the degree of concentration directly depend on the time aspect, or how many minutes or how many seconds you can continuously be face to face with the in-breath and out-breath. So therefore, it is not an overnight job. It is not one shot. You have to do again and again. While doing only, you will develop your skills, ways and means, not only to keep the breath face to face with, but to see in-breath face contrast to out-breath. Is called delimiting or discrete understanding or discriminative understanding. So those who have the academic careers, like mathematicians, painters, these kind of people are very sharp to get the details. That's how they become mathematicians and the painters, otherwise they can't perform their profession. So a Buddha is demanding more than that. It's asking, whenever you see in-breath, see its own intrinsic characteristic, individual characteristic, natural characteristics. When the out-breath happens, you must be completely refreshed with the mind and exactly with the same vigilance, same diligence, same mindfulness, observe its natural characteristic. For them, in Pali we call sabhava lakkhana. Sometimes pachatta lakkhana, puggalika lakkhana, salakkana. That is so important. When you are meditating, you are just not gazing around, gazing about that. You are very sharp to taste it as and when it arises. So the first ever, when you are understanding, now my mind is face to face with the in-breath and out-breath, as and when the in-breath happens, I am applying my mind to the in-breath, or noting it as in-breath, and I understand the characteristics of in-breath. And as and when the out-breath happens, my mind is ready, mindful, diligent, vigilant to see its characteristic, then kind of a rapture, a kind of a happiness going to start. Because now you learn the art. It is not a science. So more and more you apply, this happiness make sure when and where the mind is observing this neutral object, your mind is healing. Your body is healing. It is not distracted. It is not leading to any physical misdeeds or verbal misdeeds. Instead, make the mind agile, make the mind diligent, mindful, or present day research and everything has mentioned. As far as the mind is with such a under the nose neutral object with so much of diligence, a rejuvenation is taking place in your mind, otherwise salinity. So if you wish to maintain your youth, the vigilance, it is not the cosmetics and the decorations and kind of thing. You have to make the food for thoughts or mental nourishment. So mindfulness is or diligence is the nourishment that you have to give. It is not expensive, but there's a technique, special way. So more and more you apply through this happiness, you develop kind of an electromagnetic attraction or magnetizing effect to the breath. So when that happens, the breathing becomes beautiful. That is why they call beautiful breathing. Otherwise you may be breathing and living in this earth maybe 100 years, never you confront breath, because your eyes are taking the upper hand. It wish to see visual objects rather than be at home. It's extrovert. Or it is busy with listening to this and that. Extrovert, never be at home. For smelling or tasting or touching external objects and thinking, fantasizing, daydreaming. This is the only time you let the mind to be at home, and there you find how much you must be economically use the breath. Instead, when you see beautiful and attractive thing, what happens is you become so agitated, so lose your temper. Sometimes you become activated unnecessarily. Your breathing becomes very faster, and that is what it leads to heart attacks, sometimes to the high blood pressure and frustration, all the kind of thing. When that happens, the worst thing is you seek the help of a second person and chemicals and this and that. This is the way the world is working. But instead the Buddha says, this is because you don't know the value of beautiful breathing. And you don't know the way towards the beauty of breathing. So that is why in the Anapanasati means that mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath, the Buddha says, Santocheva panitocha asechana kocha sukocha viharocha. It's very peaceful and very desirable. It needs no anything from outside, everything provided. Asechana kocha. And whenever you are friendly with your in-breath and out-breath, in your totality, it gives the content. And it is the health, physical and mental. So then, whenever this kind of a piti and sukha arises, mind get one-pointedness and be absorbed into the breath. These qualities are called jhani factors, applying thought, the sustenance, mental state, the rapture, the joy and the one-pointer. They are completely against the 5 hindrances. 5 hindrances are always make the mind extrovert and absent-minded, dislodged from the present moment. As I mentioned, the sensual desire and the aversion, sloth and torpor, the restlessness and worry, and the doubts. So whenever the mind is applied, as the in-breath happens, you note as in-breath, as out-breath happens, you note as out-breath. Then, due to this noting or labeling, the sloth and torpor never comes in. So if you feel any kind of a lethargic, sloth and torpor nature in meditation, that you have to understand you don't know the art of noting, labeling, that is why these sloth and torpor come and sets in. So when and where it happens, if you know what is the antidote, counterbalance, you have to keep on noting. Then not only it gives wipe off your sloth and torpor, but it gives a direct touch with the primary object. And when and where the primary object become bored, monotonous and tasteless, then you have to understand your mind is not discriminately understand this in-breath and out-breath. So therefore, not only just applying of the thoughts, just noting, you have to discriminately understand the in-breath versus out-breath. When that happens, more and more you meditate, you can have a long list. My in-breath is relatively cooler when compared to the out-breath. My in-breath is calm and quiet, rubbing is gushing. Or sometimes in-breath is a quick abrupt suction, out-breath is calm and quiet flow. Sometimes you may say, in-breath has 1001 in-breaths within, and out-breath has 1001 out-breaths within. So therefore a lot of information inside. So this kind of chewing and tasting and sucking of the sap of the Dhamma, sap of the object, is your own skill. And I would say it's partly a responsibility of the master also, the teacher also. That is why the Buddha giving little more detail as an example. But you have to understand, these are examples. Your own experience is the first and foremost thing. So therefore when you keep on practicing only, you will understand how to get rid of this dust and dirty things, and instead understand what is the under the nose experience, undeniable experience, the in-breath versus out-breath. In the Hindu traditions, they say that our longevity is decided by number of breaths. It says when you are born, you have the account balance of so much of breaths. If you do it carefully or economically and the slow manner, you will live long. Instead, if you are in an emotional and quick rush, the longevity will be low. So, when you understand this, be prepared and practice the very calm and quiet life and the slow breathing, then you are helping and healthy life and longer life. But they say, whenever someone is reaching the death, then only they will understand the precision, the value of the breath. And they are pleading and asking, please give me some more few breaths. But when you are in the day-to-day activities, busy with that and this, you are so unconcerned about that. That is what you are not make any loving kindness to yourself, no compassionate to yourself. You are so busy with day-to-day affairs and forgetting about the breath. But instead, if you are giving a prayer consideration, mindfulness and the diligence, you will be used it in a very economical way. More and more you are applying thoughts and the sustenance thoughts with the breath, the rapture is bound to arise. It is not anyone's favor. As far as the causative factors are being fulfilled, effect will be there. These vitakka vichara, applying thought as sustenance thoughts, one has to develop. Whenever you are developing, the rapture, the happiness is the result. When continuity the happiness happens, the joy arises. And then you feel the mind is attracted into this particular object, and whole game, the whole meditation need not anything from outside. Everything is within, and that is how mind becomes introvert. Whenever the mind is absorbing and penetrating into the object, that we call in the samatha meditation as the absorption meditation, when you go there, just like a turtle, taken all the limbs inside, and it is free of the sun and the heat, something like that. Whenever the mind becomes introvert, you become free of the friction from the sensuous world. Specifically, now I am talking much somewhat related to the samatha meditation, but even in the vipassana sphere, this area has been discussed, and there it says, whenever the mind becomes so introvert, you are entering into a space they call the inner space. And when you go there and dwelling in there, you are fairly cut off from your five senses. Even the noises outside there, they go undistracted. Even the background thoughts are there, you will feel like protected. Even some bodily pains are there, you feel like someone else. You get a distance on the pain. And instead, you can dwell upon these the in-breath and out-breath continuously. More you be with that, ultimately you will understand this is our real home. Now only I have come back home. Whenever we are distracted along these five senses, no control, no agenda, no one can plan. End up with disappointment. Instead, when you go and get a little distance from this sense-related consciousness, then the consciousness becomes introvert, you start to feel the totality. They call the whole body experience. You feel the whole life. And that experience you are not getting through your eye, not through your ear, not through your nose, not through your tongue, not through your body, not through your mind. It's a kind of another sense you can't explain, because our language is completely oriented on the sensuous pleasure, our conventional sensuous world. Whenever you go out of that and go into the totality, our language becomes invalid. That is why people say, whenever meditation subject talk, it appears like mystics. If it is available, why can't you explain? That is the normal argument. But this is something you can go and explain it, taste it, experience it, but you will get into trouble when you are going to explain it. More and more you go into the deep layers, there are different jhanic experiences called the materialistic, and further go to the immaterial levels, and there you understand only the human beings can experience this both material and immaterial kind of experience. But as far as we are confining our life to completely on the sensuality, we will never open the door to this immaterial pressure. You know that usually each being has two eyes.
But that is also a feeling, no?
Yeah.
It is a feeling.
It's a feeling you can experience. It's a neutral kind of feeling, healing kind of feeling. But I was explaining, you have two eyes. You can close one eye completely and see. You can see. But you can't see the depth. If you wish to see the depth, you have to have two eyes. Two eyes only can give 3D experience. One eye can give a flat kind of observation. The Buddha says, those who have not practiced this samatha meditation and tasted this immaterial pleasure, they are like one-eyed person or blind with one eye. They can see, they can observe, but they never can experience the depth. Instead, whenever you have the second eye, then only you are going to see the depth. So therefore, my teacher was in Burma, he says, if someone is deciding critical and crucial issues, specifically about others, he must have at least 2 eyes. So all the judges in the world should have this qualification, otherwise they must be pulled back from the page. But I doubt how many judges in the world have ever meditated. They are behind money. That is why the world is leading one chaotic situation to a chaotic situation. And I will guarantee one thing. The day you are going to appreciate this absorption or concentration, you will never worry about our other outside problems. Because you will understand you are not qualified. To be qualified, you have to have such a vast compassion and the wisdom to decide about outside things. But what happens is, those who shallow-minded people jump and going to decide, and that is how the world is in such a chaotic situation. When and where you become meditative and contemplative, you are not poking fingers into the other affairs. You know, because one thing is your valuable time. The second thing is, you get entangled with, hooked up with physical and verbal misdeeds, and often leading to the chaotic situation. The third thing is, you understand you are not qualified. So this is a kind of a protection, that you protect yourself in a very deep layer, and more you go to the protection, you will understand less and less qualified people going into decision making and judgmental things, and therefore the situation becomes completely beyond control. So that is why the Buddha says, while you are practicing, you can understand who is the noble friend, who is the spiritual friend. They are not much concerned about things which one can't comprehend and one is not qualified. They will simply understand and I don't know, I am not qualified. But those who have no such profound understanding, they are the people usually jumping and going to make a decision, ultimately end up with disagreement. So therefore, even at this level, I mean that being with a single object, which is practically under your nose experience, direct touch, and whenever you get that kind of absorption, you start to leave. You go home. Otherwise, you are misdirected, otherwise other-directed, and so much of rush to the decision, end up with this frustration, and all the kind of thing, and no end. It's perpetuating. So that is why, even before becoming a Buddha, he, as a Buddha to be, experienced this. With the help of the other masters, before his enlightenment, and he accepted exactly the same and incorporated to his own teaching. He never refused it, telling that it is something historical that I did not invent it, it was before. He says this is really giving a fairly an answer to this burning word. But even then, once you go into such an absorption, during that period, during that time, you can suppress your 5 hindrances, namely Kama, Chanda, Vyapada. But whenever the meditation alignment is gone, again you are succumbed to the same 5 hindrances. But the advantage is, you know the danger of it. You know the way out of it. Then only you can understand what is the good posture, what is the good food, what is the good friend, what is the good thing to listen, what is the more conducive dwelling, all the kind of thing you will understand when and where you have the first-hand experience of this, the concentration and the mindfulness. Otherwise, you go by your liking and disliking, but there is no assurance whether that will definitely going to give you the well-being of yourself. So more and more you people not contented with this concentration, are concerned about other people, and they are rushing to decision, and ultimately so much of problems. Within the family, within the office room, within the classroom, within the working place, everywhere you can see more and more contented people take time to understand the problem before rushing to a decision. But the shallow-minded people never take time for understanding the problem and rushing to decision. So therefore, those who have done this kind of concentration meditation, supposing go and answering a question paper regarding mathematics, they never rush to an answer script. They will take the first and easiest question and understand the question in a very relaxed way. And even the greatest mathematician of this past century, Einstein, he told, just understanding the question is the answer. Writing the steps and everything is only for the examiner. But if you understand the question, answer is there. Whatever the theorem you know, whatever the formula you know, before applying anything, you have to understand the question. So that is the crux of it. Even the present day meditation, medical science, for any disease, epidemic or otherwise, you have to really diagnose it. Diagnosing is the most important. Especially MDs and specialists are not prescribing anything. They are charging heavy amount because just for the diagnosis. After diagnosis, it's a matter of pharmacist to understand this germ needs this antidote. That is already grafted. It is ready recognition available. But diagnosis is the most important. But if you do not know that, you will run quickly to the pharmacy and get that medicine and this medicine. Ultimately, iatrogenic effect will kill you. The side effects by wrong medicine itself will kill you. So before that, the Buddha says or the teacher says, diagnosis is a very patient you have to be. Even the question is throbbing and palpating, rushing. The trained mind, the equanimous mind, take time to diagnose. So the problem basically is we don't know who we are. So when you are concentrating, doing concentrated meditation beyond your moral training, you are understanding who am I in the second layer.
So when you meditate and this feeling is taking you, this deep, fine feeling, it is so pleasant, you don't want to go any more further. Normally you stay there.
You can't be there incessant way. Whenever the concentration finishes, you will be again vulnerable.
Yeah, that is right, but it is so, if we have a nice thing to drink, I stay as well, so you want it again. So like the feeling is so fine, you feel, I am in heaven, sort of, But even the Buddha, when the Siddhartha was going to Neva Sanyana Sanya, normally people stop there. Don't go beyond that, because they feel they are in Nibbana also. So this is also when you, in the Samatha, this...
The Samatha, it has its own advantages and disadvantages. When compared to the sensuous pleasure, there are some advantages. But when you go there and master only, you will understand disadvantages. It takes time. You have to go further. Just by understanding, just by going and dwelling, just by abiding there, it is not the end. But you must take a sequential way. Sequential way is the scientific and methodological way. So therefore the second layer of defilements you remove temporarily or likewise in the permanent stage, and then only you are in a better position to see the next stage. So therefore, as far as this Nivaranas are concerned or obsessional defilements are concerned, either through concentration meditation or through the Vipassana meditation, you have to suppress them. Without that, your decisions, your calculations are paralyzed. It is not full-fledged. So therefore, once you have taken this moral training, then you have to take this concentration training. The important part of, or I would say, the critical side is whether this concentration you gain through samatha meditation or vipassana meditation is a separate issue. Samatha meditation don't emphasize the disadvantageous sides. But the vipassana concentration, always you are aware that there is an attraction for that. There is a kind of a abiding thing. So be aware of it. So we will take it time to come. But anyway, somehow whatever may be, before the operation you have to anesthetize the patient. Otherwise, the patient will not be cooperative for the operation. So therefore, this samatha meditation is something like anesthetizing. The moral conduct is like disinfection. The theatre must be disinfected, otherwise you are not taking the patient. The patient must be anesthetized, first degree, second degree or third degree or local, otherwise operation won't take place. Specifically, you just think, if you are going to do an operation to a wild tiger, if you are going to do without anesthetizing, what will be the consequences? So therefore, you have to anesthetize. After anesthetizing, you can do in leisure. So therefore, you have to understand the value of concentration. But the point I am going to make is, concentration is the effect of mindfulness as the base. Or you can say, mindfulness is the proximate factor for the concentration to happen. So therefore, when you are developing mindfulness, naturally you become endowed with the concentration. You will be mastering the concentration, then you can use it as and when it is necessary in day-to-day affairs or in your meditative life, whatever may be. And this concentration is very, very helpful, according to the present knowledge, for your health, for education, for your memory, for your creativity, for your productivity. And if you keep on mindfulness and the concentration intact, you will be ever rejuvenating and your senility will be drastically cut off. That is why the Buddha, even after at the age of 80, was so vigilant, so agile to have the sharpness of the mind. So out of compassion he says, only human can do it, and if you are not going to make use this opportunity, ultimately you are wasting, you are misappropriating, or you miss the bus. So therefore, why not master this concentration so that you can use when and where necessary. Sometimes through this mastery of this concentration, you can go for extrasensory perceptions. That is also part and parcel of this training. But these things, the extrasensory perception, that means the divine eye and all the kind of things, were highly appreciated before the Buddha. But after the enlightenment of the Buddha, he put them in the appropriate place. He never put in the very high esteem. He told they can be trapped even, and therefore put them in the due place so that you take the advantage of this concentration and galvanize it with the mindfulness and the equanimity, and you have to go for the wisdom training or the insight meditation, and ultimately the concentration become a stage. It become a platform for the insight to happen.
So if the Siddhartha from the Alara Kalama thought this is the end of the Meva Sanyana Sanya, this is the end of the game, he wouldn't have become Buddha. But what made him think that this is not the end of the game?
I will give yet another example. After the enlightenment, Buddha asked who is the next person to listen Dhamma. Alara Kalama was the next person to listen Dhamma.
He said it.
Yes.
But the thing is, that was about when he was 29, 30, he reached that stage. But from that stage to 35, it is almost 5 years.
So after the enlightenment, he scanned through and see who is the next person to listen his profound Dhamma. The first choice was Alara Kalama.
No, I know that. See, Alara Kalama was 29 or 30 years old when Siddhartha achieved that. From that day, he took 5 years to be Buddha.
Yeah.
So
that is definitely, but the point as I understand, you say that the peak of concentration meditation, you can't compare with the insight meditation. Insight is a completely different dimension. So yes, that is true.
No, but what is more important is to know what made Siddhartha Gautama go to Neka Sanjana Sanya, and everybody feels I'm in Nibbana. What made him to feel that he has not found what he is searching for?
He realized there were defilements still in him.
No, he was so revolutionary. He was challenging his own knowledge. All the others was appreciating and finished, thinking enough. But he was not. His unsatiability, unsatiable, he must keep on doing. No one in this Buddhist era can do such a broad decision like Prince Siddhartha. So then after enlightenment, he saw for the communication to take place.
So when he became Buddha, second was Alara. So he was dead at that time. Or
that is the miss. That is where he missed the bus. Otherwise, Alara Kalama was the most prepared man to listen, because his second layer of defilement he can control. But he has to tackle on the last layer. But the convincing is separate. But the normal being has 3 layers. So he has to start first layer, second layer, then only he can understand.
No, what I mean is from 29 or 30 up to Buddha 5 years.
6 years.
6 years to jump that.
Yeah. And 6 years
he was practicing Aptakya.
Yes, that's the thing, yeah. That's why I know. I understand.
He thought this is not the end. That is the revolution.
That is the magic of the thing. Everybody goes there, gets stuck and feels that I am in Nibbana. But Siddhartha said, still, so otherwise they wouldn't have a Buddha today.
No, that's why he realized there were defilements.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get to that.
Whatever maybe he decided this is not the end.
Yeah.
That is revolutionary.
That is revolutionary.
That is electric.
Yeah.
And you can't explain.
Only one night for him to get to the
Buddha.
Get out of that.
Only one night, no? When he got the formula.
When he comes to the middle part, then the truth, breakthrough. So therefore, that by today's talk, what I was trying to explain was the importance of the concentration, and that is also coming out of mindfulness. And after a certain amount of concentration only, you can see through, you can foresee. Otherwise, not. So therefore, the Buddha says, Patipakka vigamanena gambhiro vidhammo supakato paviya. Whenever the hindrances are removed, you can have a far-reaching and foresight. And then only the third layer of instructions you can comprehend and practice, not otherwise. So with that remark, I would like
third layer of instructions.
Third layer of defilements or proper instruction you can see once the concentration established, otherwise not. So let me finish my talk telling this as the last remark. Thank you very much for this.
Sadhu.